The sun was slowly going down, and the small town was becoming quiet. People were closing their shops, lights were turning on in houses, and the street felt calm. But inside one little house at the end of the road, something very different was happening. Something dark. Something scary. This was the house where a 10-year-old boy named Rafi lived with his grandmother. Rafi was a quiet boy. He loved drawing, playing with his small wooden toys, and listening to his grandma's stories every night. His grandma was his whole world. She cooked for him, walked him to school, and always told him, "You are safe with me." But today, Rafi did not feel safe at all. It started when a man came to the house. His name was Sajid, a distant relative who sometimes visited. Rafi never liked him. Sajid always looked angry for no reason. His eyes were sharp, his voice was loud, and he smelled like trouble. Rafi's grandma usually gave him food and asked him to leave quickly. But today, Sajid did not want to leave. He entered the house with heavy steps, pushing the door wide open. Rafi was sitting at the small dining table, drawing a picture of the sunset. His grandma was washing dishes. Sajid walked in and threw a small bag on the table, making Rafi jump. "Where is my money?" Sajid shouted. Grandma turned around. "Sajid, I told you, I don't have money. I am taking care of the house and the boy. Please don't shout." But Sajid did not listen. He stepped closer to her, raising his voice even more. Rafi felt his heart beating fast. He hated when adults shouted. The house felt smaller suddenly, like the walls were closing in. Grandma tried to calm Sajid down. "You should leave. Come back another day when you are not angry." This made Sajid even more furious. He grabbed a plate and threw it on the floor. It broke into small pieces. Rafi cried out in fear. The noise was loud, and the whole room shook with tension. Then something terrible happened. Sajid pushed Grandma hard. Too hard. She lost her balance and fell near the table. Rafi's eyes widened. His whole body froze. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. "Stop it," he finally shouted. "Don't hurt my grandma." But Sajid ignored him. He started yelling again, kicking the broken pieces on the floor. Grandma tried to sit up, holding her side in pain. She looked at Rafi with weak eyes and whispered, "Run, go get help." Those words broke whatever fear was holding Rafi still. He stood up quickly, tears falling down his face. He looked once more at his grandma lying on the floor, then he ran toward the door with all the strength he had. As he stepped outside, he could still hear Sajid shouting behind him. The street was dark now, but a group of loud motorcycles were approaching. Their engines echoed through the night, sounding powerful and dangerous. They were the town's biker group, people everyone tried to avoid. Normally, Rafi would be scared of them too. People said they were rude, wild, and always causing trouble. But right now, Rafi had no choice. He needed help, and he needed it fast. He ran straight toward the bikers, waving his hands, crying loudly. The bikers slowed down, confused. Nobody ever ran toward them like this. The biggest biker, wearing a black jacket and a helmet with flames drawn on it, stopped right in front of Rafi. The boy was shaking so hard that even his voice trembled. He hurt my grandma." Rafi cried. "Please help us." The biker removed his helmet slowly. His eyes softened when he saw the little boy. He looked at the other bikers, then back at Rafi. "Show us," he said in a calm but serious voice. And just like that, Rafi's dangerous night was about to take a very unexpected turn. The night was growing colder as Rafi led the bikers toward his house. Their heavy boots hit the ground like drumbeats, and their engines slowly faded behind them. Anyone watching would think something dangerous was about to happen. In this town, bikers were not known as heroes. People whispered stories about them, stories of fights, broken windows, and wild rides through the streets. Children were told to stay away from them. But tonight, the truth about them was about to come out. Their leader, Ian, walked at the front. He was tall, strong, and carried an expression that people found frightening. His leather jacket had scratches from old fights, and his boots looked like they had seen many rough roads. But behind those hard eyes was a story nobody knew. As they followed Rafi, Ian watched the little boy closely. He noticed how Rafi kept wiping his tears and how his small hands trembled. Ian slowed down for a moment. Something inside him felt heavy, like a forgotten memory rising again. When he was young, he had also cried like this. He had also run for help. But no one came. Because of that pain, he had grown up believing the world was cold. And that belief had shaped him into the biker he was now. But tonight felt different. Rafi walked fast, almost stumbling in his hurry. "Please, please don't let him hurt my grandma again," he said between sobs. Ian placed a gentle hand on Rafi's shoulder. "We won't let that happen," he replied. His voice was deep but calm. It surprised Rafi. He expected bikers to shout, not speak softly. The other bikers exchanged looks. They were used to helping quietly, saving animals stuck on the road, fixing old women's broken gates, stopping drunk men from causing problems. But they never told anyone. They didn't want praise. They wanted respect. And respect came easier when people were scared. Still, something about this night felt different even to them. As they reached the last turn near Rafi's lane, Ian signaled the group to slow down. The street was narrow and empty. A single dim streetlight flickered overhead, making the ground glow in broken yellow patches. Rafi pointed ahead. "My house, there." Ian studied the house. It was old, with wooden windows and a small iron gate. The front door was half open. Light spilled out, but it didn't feel warm. It felt tense, like the air was holding its breath. One biker whispered, "Something's wrong inside." Ian nodded. He crouched beside Rafi. "Listen carefully," he said. "Stay behind us. No matter what you hear or see, don't run inside, okay?" Rafi nodded, though fear filled his eyes. They stepped closer to the house. As they approached the door, they heard it, shouting. A man's angry voice echoed out, mixed with the sound of things breaking. Rafi flinched and reached out to hold Ian's jacket. Ian didn't pull away. Inside, Sajid was still yelling. "You think you can refuse me? You think you can embarrass me?" Something heavy crashed to the floor. The grandma groaned softly. Ian's jaw tightened. He looked at two of his bikers and pointed to the sides of the door. They moved quickly, taking positions like trained guards. Another biker checked the back windows. Ian pushed the door gently. It creaked open. He didn't enter yet, he observed. The room was small but messy now. Plates shattered, chairs knocked over. And in the center, the grandma lay on the floor, breathing weakly. Sajid stood near her, holding a bottle. His face was red with anger. Ian stepped inside slowly, each step full of silent power. The floor cracked under his boots. Sajid turned sharply. "Who are you? Get out." Ian didn't blink. "You hurt a grandmother," he said evenly. "That makes this our problem now." The room fell silent for a second. But everyone inside knew, this silence was only the beginning. For a moment, the room felt frozen. Even the air seemed scared to move. Sajid stared at Ian as if he could not believe what he was seeing, a tall biker with sharp eyes and a calm, dangerous silence. Behind Ian, the other bikers entered slowly, taking careful steps. Their jackets rustled, their boots pressed against broken pieces of glass, and the tension grew thicker with every second. Rafi stood near the doorway, half hidden behind a biker. His small fingers clutched the man's jacket tightly. His heart beat so fast he could hear it inside his ears. He wanted to run to his grandma, but Ian had told him to stay back. And somehow, he trusted Ian. Sajid lifted the bottle slightly, trying to act brave. "This is my family matter," he growled. "You have no right to come inside." Ian didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Family matter," he repeated slowly. "Hurting an old woman is not a family matter. It is a crime." One of the bikers, a short but strong man named Gibran, stepped forward and scanned the room. He noticed the broken plates, the overturned table, the bruises on the grandma's arm, and the fear in her eyes. Everything painted a very clear story, one of violence, anger, and helplessness. Ian knelt down beside the grandma carefully, giving her respect. "Are you hurt badly?" he asked. The grandma tried to smile, though pain spread across her face. "I'll be fine," she whispered. "But, please protect Rafi." Ian glanced at Rafi, who stood silently with wet eyes. He nodded. "We're here now. Nothing will happen to him." Hearing those words, Sajid became more agitated. "You think you can boss me around?" he shouted, stepping closer with the bottle raised high. But before he could take another step, another biker, tall and calm like a mountain, moved swiftly and stood between Sajid and the grandma. His presence alone was enough to stop Sajid. Ian stood up slowly, brushing dust off his jacket. "Why did you come here? Money? Anger? Or something else?" he asked. Sajid's eyes twitched. "She owes me. She promised to help me. She lied." The grandma shook her head weakly. "I never promised him anything," she said. "He comes drunk. He demands money. I don't have any." The truth settled in the room like a heavy blanket. Sajid wasn't a victim. He was a bully, using fear to get what he wanted. Ian took one step toward Sajid. Just one. But that was enough to make Sajid step back. "Put the bottle down," Ian said softly. Sajid hesitated. His eyes darted from face to face. 6 bikers stood around him. Their expressions were blank, but their eyes were sharp. They were not scared of him. They were not impressed by him. And they were not going to let him hurt anyone again. For the first time that night, Sajid felt small. His hand shook as he lowered the bottle, but before he could drop it, he tried something foolish. He suddenly rushed toward the door, hoping to escape. But he didn't get far. 2 bikers blocked the exit like walls. Sajid crashed into them and bounced back, falling to the floor. The bottle rolled away, hitting Rafi's foot. Rafi jumped back, startled, but one biker placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, kid," he said. "He can't touch you now." Sajid sat on the ground, breathing heavily, his confidence broken. The bikers stood around him, not hurting him, just surrounding him, making it clear he had lost. Ian turned to Gibran. "Check the house," he ordered. "Make sure no one else is inside." Gibran nodded and went from room to room, opening doors, checking corners. He returned after a minute. "Whole house is clear." Ian looked at the grandma. "We're taking control now. You don't have to be afraid anymore." Rafi ran to his grandma and hugged her tightly. She held him close, her weak arms full of love and relief. Outside, the night was still quiet, but inside this small house, justice was finally beginning. The room felt heavier than before. A strange mix of fear and courage filled the air. Sajid stayed on the floor, breathing hard, his eyes jumping from one biker to another. He could see no escape. The bikers stood like silent protectors, forming a circle around him, each one calm but dangerous in his own way. Ian stepped closer, his boots crunching broken glass. His expression did not change, but his eyes were sharp enough to cut through Sajid's excuses. "You hurt an elderly woman," he said, his voice firm and steady. "You scared a child. Do you understand how serious that is? Sajid opened his mouth, but no words came out. For a moment, he stared at the floor, trying to gather his broken courage. She made me angry, he finally muttered. She doesn't give me the money she owes. The grandma shook her head from the corner, still sitting weakly against the wall. I owe you nothing, she whispered. You come here again and again, asking for things you know I can't give. Rafi stood beside her, holding her hand tightly. His small body shook, but his eyes were focused on Ayan, trusting him more than he trusted anyone else tonight. Ayan folded his arms. So you came here to take money from a woman who barely earns enough to live? That's your excuse? Sajid swallowed hard. I was desperate. Ayan leaned forward slightly. Desperate people ask for help. They don't attack grandmothers. The words hit Sajid like a slap. He looked away, angry but powerless. One of the bikers, a man with long hair tied back, stepped forward. Ayan, should we throw him outside? He asked. The tone was casual, but his eyes were anything but. Sajid tensed up. He had heard rumors about these bikers, rumors that they fought without rules, that they were wild, that they were unforgiving. Fear crawled up his spine. Ayan raised a hand to stop the biker. No, he said calmly. We don't do things without reason. He turned his attention back to Sajid. Stand up. Sajid hesitated. Why? Because I told you to, Ayan replied. Slowly, shaking, Sajid pushed himself up. His legs felt weak, like they could collapse at any moment. He avoided looking into the eyes of the bikers surrounding him. Ayan stepped back, giving him a little space. You think strength is shouting at the weak? He asked. You think being a man means scaring a child? Sajid gritted his teeth. You don't know my life. Then explain it, Ayan said. Right now. Everyone in the room waited. Even the broken pieces of glass seemed quiet. Sajid took a deep breath. I lost my job. I have debts, nobody helps me. Ayan's eyes softened for just a second. Many people struggle, he said. But not everyone chooses violence. Sajid looked down. I didn't mean to hurt her. Rafi spoke up softly, surprising everyone. But you did. The room went silent. The little boy's voice was small but strong enough to shake the moment. Sajid looked at Rafi, really looked at him, and for the first time that night, a flicker of shame appeared on his face. Before anything else could be said, the tall biker near the sofa pointed at a heavy stick lying on the floor. He was planning to use that, he said. Ayan picked it up, turning it in his hand. The wood was thick, with cracks along the edges. It could cause real harm. Ayan placed it aside slowly. So this was not an accident, he said. You came here ready to hurt someone. Sajid had no answer. His body froze. Ayan took out his phone. This ends now, he said. We're calling the police. Sajid's face drained of color. No, please, wait. You should have thought earlier, Ayan replied firmly. At that moment, the bikers formed a tighter circle, making sure Sajid could not escape again. Rafi held his grandma, whispering softly to comfort her. The confrontation was no longer loud. It was calm. Controlled. But it was clear, justice had entered the house, and Sajid's night had changed forever. The tension inside the small house changed slowly. The shouting was gone. The dangerous energy was gone. Now, only silence remained, heavy, deep, and meaningful. Sajid stood in the center of the room, trapped not by ropes or chains, but by the strong presence of the bikers. His breathing was uneven, and his eyes moved nervously from face to face. Ayan held the phone in his hand, his thumb hovering over the screen. The police will handle him, he said calmly. His voice was steady, but there was no softness left. It was the voice of a man who had made a final decision. Sajid took a small step forward. Ayan, please. Don't do this. I'll leave. I won't come back. Ayan raised his eyes. You already said that before, didn't you? Sajid opened his mouth, but the truth stopped him. He had said that before. And he had returned again and again, bringing only fear. The grandma tried to sit up straighter. Her voice was weak but steady. This must end, she said. He will hurt someone again if you let him go. Rafi looked up at his grandma, then at Ayan. He didn't fully understand the law, but he knew one thing, his grandma deserved protection. Ayan nodded. It was decided. He pressed the call button. But before the police could answer, something surprising happened. One of the bikers, a quiet man named Farid, knelt beside the grandma. Let me check your arm, he said gently. His large hands were steady, but his touch was careful. The grandma smiled faintly. You boys look scary, but you have kind hearts. Farid chuckled softly. Scary works better. People listen faster. Meanwhile, Gibran went to the kitchen and came back with a glass of water. He gave it to Rafi, who was still shaking. Drink, he said. Your grandma needs you strong right now. Rafi nodded and took a small sip. For the first time that night, he felt safe. Ayan spoke into the phone, explaining the situation clearly and calmly. Yes, injured grandmother, yes, suspect inside the house, yes, we are holding him. His tone was respectful, something unusual for someone with his rough reputation. But tonight wasn't about pride, it was about justice. When Ayan hung up, he turned to the group. Police will arrive in 10 minutes, he said. Nobody moves him. The bikers nodded. They formed a loose but unbreakable circle around Sajid. There was no need for shouting. Their silence alone was enough to keep him still. Sajid began to shake. Please. I made a mistake. Let me go. Ayan stepped closer. A mistake is dropping a cup, he said. Not pushing a grandmother. Not scaring a child. Not destroying someone's peace. The truth in those words crushed the last bit of resistance inside Sajid. Outside, faint sirens slowly grew louder. Inside, Rafi sat beside his grandma, leaning gently against her shoulder. She stroked his hair with her good hand. You were very brave, she whispered. I was scared, Rafi admitted. Bravery is doing the right thing even when you are scared, she said. And you did that. The bikers watched the moment quietly. Even Ayan felt something shift inside him, something warm, something he had forgotten long ago. The sirens grew louder, stopping right outside the house. The flashing blue and red lights filled the windows. 2 officers stepped in. Ayan pointed at Sajid. He attacked the woman, he stated simply. She needs medical care. The police checked the scene, nodded, and quickly handcuffed Sajid. He didn't resist this time. His eyes moved to Rafi and the grandma, but there was no anger left, only regret. As the officers led him out, the grandma let out a deep breath, the kind of breath someone holds for too long. It's over now, she whispered. Ayan looked around the house. The broken pieces, the bruises, the fear, it all told a story. But something else was present too, strength, unity, and unexpected heroes. The bikers stayed a little longer, helping pick up broken items, fixing the fallen chair, making the kitchen safe again. They didn't talk much. Their actions spoke for them. For the first time, the neighbors peeked from their windows, not frightened, but amazed. The bikers, the ones everyone judged, were standing as protectors. Tonight, justice didn't come quietly. It came on motorcycles, the police cars slowly drove away with Sajid in the back seat, the flashing lights fading into the night. The street became quiet again, but the atmosphere around the small house had changed completely. The danger was gone. The fear was gone. In its place was something warmer, safety, trust, and a strange sense of hope. Rafi stood at the doorway with his grandma beside him. She leaned on a wooden stick for support, but her eyes were calm. The bikers gathered near their motorcycles, talking softly. Their loud engines were silent, giving the night a peaceful feel. Ian walked back into the house to check on the grandma one last time. "Do you need a doctor?" he asked. His voice was respectful, not demanding like before. The grandma shook her head slowly. "I will be fine," she said. "Some rest will help. Thank you for saving us." Ian looked at her gently. "You should never have gone through this alone." Rafi stepped closer to him. His small voice carried big emotions. "You came when nobody else did," he said. "I thought bikers were dangerous, but you helped us." Ian crouched down to meet Rafi's eyes. "People fear what they don't understand," he said softly. "But remember this, real strength is protecting, not hurting." Rafi nodded slowly, as if those words settled deep inside him. Meanwhile, the other bikers began cleaning the living room without anyone asking. Farid picked up broken glass carefully. Gibran lifted the table and fixed its legs. The youngest biker, a man named Rashid, swept the floor with a small old broom he found in the corner. The grandma watched, surprised. "I never thought I'd see bikers cleaning my house," she said with a small smile. Rashid grinned. "Don't tell anyone. We have a hard reputation to protect." They all laughed, even Ian, whose laughter was rare but warm. After cleaning, Ian stepped outside and looked around the neighborhood. Many people were peeking from behind curtains, shocked at what they had witnessed. The feared biker gang was fixing a broken home, helping an old woman, and comforting a child. Slowly, one of the neighbors stepped out, a middle-aged man. "Did you really help them?" he asked quietly. Ian didn't answer with words. He simply nodded. The man looked embarrassed. "We thought you bikers caused trouble." "We cause noise," Gibran replied, "not trouble." Another neighbor came out, then another. Soon, small groups stood near their gates, whispering but watching with new eyes. The grandma walked to the doorway and called out, "These men saved me. If they had not come, I don't know what would have happened." Her voice carried through the street, changing the way people looked at the bikers forever. Ian didn't crave attention, but for the first time, he felt something different from the town, respect. Rafi tugged his jacket gently. "Will you come again?" he asked. Ian smiled slightly. "If you ever need us, just call." Rafi smiled back, his fear completely replaced with admiration. Before leaving, the bikers brought groceries from their bikes: bread, milk, fruits, medicine. They placed everything on the small table in the kitchen. The grandma's eyes filled with tears. "You have done too much already." Ian shook his head. "No. Tonight reminded us of something important. Strength should always stand with the weak." The bikers finally wore their helmets and prepared to leave. One by one, their engines started, lighting up the dark street with a soft thundering sound. But before they rode off, Ian looked back at the boy and his grandmother. "You are safe now," he said. "This house is protected." Rafi raised his hand in a small wave. The grandma stood beside him proudly. The bikers drove away in a line, their headlights shining like a symbol of silent guardianship. The neighbors watched them disappear, realizing everything they believed about the bikers was wrong. Inside the house, Rafi hugged his grandma tightly. "We're not alone anymore," he whispered. "No," the grandma replied softly. "Good people come in all shapes. Sometimes even with leather jackets and motorcycles." Outside, the night felt calmer than it had in years. And in that small town, a new story began, one where the bikers were no longer feared, but quietly honored as unlikely heroes.